Okay, let's now talk about more about vectors. Again, we are working on the console because we are not saving what we are doing. As we said, if you'd like to save everything that you have done, so you can do this on vectors and you can take notes, you can put comments on what you are saying. You can say creating vectors, then you start typing your code and run the code every time, or run the line or lines, multiple lines, or all of them at the same time. But for me, because just to save time, so that's why I am working on the console. And are the most basic objects available to store data are vectors. As we've seen, complex data sets can usually be broken down into components that are vectors. For example, in the data frame, each column is a vector. Each column is a vector. We can create vectors using a function called C, which stands for concatenate. So we can use C to concatenate entries in different ways. So let's start creating vectors. So let's create the first vector and give it a name, assign a name to be codes C. Create this vector, concatenate these numbers, 350, 120, 800, enter. Then look at the workspace. We have a numeric, 3 data. These are the values, and I can call them. So we have 3 values, which is a 1 vector. We can also create this is a numeric vector. We can create a character vectors. Let's call countries. Assign the name country, C. Let's call Italy, comma, Canada, comma. And note that I'm using what? I'm using 2 things here, not 1 bit. We're using quotations, right? We have to use quotations, quotes, if you want to use characters, right? If you want to use numeric, there's no need to use quotes. If you include quotes in the codes, in the first one, if you include quotes, R is going to read them as character. Now, because these are characters, so country contains 3 values. Country is a vector, contains 3 values. Italy, Canada, Egypt. You can use single quote, by the way. Single quote is fine. Don't mix up between the single quote and the back tick. Okay, Canada's. Okay, here we go. So both giving you the same thing. So you can use the double quotes or single quotes, and don't get confused. The single quote with the back quote. But what if you try to type country again, C, just Italy without quotations, Canada, let's say quickly, Canada, and Egypt with the caps are small now, doesn't matter because we get an error. Why? Because these 3 variables are not defined because we don't use quotes here. If you don't use quotes, R starts searching for variables, predefined variables, something called Italy, something called Canada, something called an object called Egypt, which is not the case. We don't have these names. We don't have these variables, predefined variables. That's why we got an error. So it's important to use quotes when you are defining a character vector. And sometimes it's useful to name the entries of the vector. For example, if you want to define a vector of country codes, you can use the names to connect the two. So you can say codes, a vector. Let's say Italy is going to take the value of 380, comma. Canada is going to take value, we said 350. Canada is going to take the value 120. And Egypt is going to take the value of 800. Again, if you go and check the codes, what are the codes? It's going to tell you, okay, Italy takes the value of 350, Canada 120, Egypt 800. Remember, these are just the names. The object codes is still a numeric vector. So check class of codes. Someone's going to tell me, what about the codes we started at the beginning? It was code. Yeah, we overwritten the previously defined code. It's important. The first one we defined was codes 350, 120, 800. After that, it's like overwritten the first codes variable definition, the predefined codes. So we have codes now, it has names, these values have names, but still the codes is still what? Is still a numeric vector. But with the names, we can check the names. What are the names? Names comes with a codes variable. Names is a function. Codes is the variable that we define, or the object. The names comes with this object is Italy, Canada, Egypt. Does that make sense? Someone's going to tell me, okay, why we did not use quotations for the Italy? You can do so, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the fact that these are just names. Use codes here. Again, check the codes. Oh, sorry. The class of the codes. We still have the same thing. The names of the codes. The names is a function of the codes variable. We got Italy, Canada, Egypt. Is the same thing. Nothing has been changed. The last thing I would like to talk is about sequences. Another useful function is creating vectors generate sequences. There's a function called seq. Seq creates sequence 1 to 10. So now this gives me sequences from 1 to 10. So the first argument defines the start, and the second defines the end, which is included. The default is to go up in increments of 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? But if you add the third argument, this tells you that how much to jump by. So you can see sequence. So the default is 1. Start by 1, end by 10, but jump 2. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Excuse me. If you'd like to use, let's say, a sequence, and you'd like to know what types of data is this, you can check. For example, 1 to 10. What is 1 to 10? The sequence from 1 to 10. It'll give you the consecutive integers. If you'd like to know the type of this 1 to 10, what is the type of the data? Class. What is the class of this? It's integer. So these are integers. If you want to create sequence including non-integer, the class change to numeric, not integer. For example, let's find the class of what? The sequence of 1 to 10. Do the jump by half. Jump by half. So I have two functions inside each others. The first one is, the inside one is the sequence. Give me the sequence of numbers from 1 to 10, jumping by half. So 1 1/2, 2, 2 1/2, 3, etc. And give me the class of this. The class of this. It's a numeric. It's not integer anymore because we have decimals. We have decimals. Again, if you'd like to keep this sequence, let me copy this. You can give it a name. You can assign a name. Let's say you're going to call it A. So what is A? A is numbers from 1 to 10, jumping by halves. If you'd like to look at the class of A, it's a numeric. I mean, you can assign a name for this function. It becomes an object. It's defined here in the workspace. So this is the way that we are using sequences. You can try sequences, you can try vectors, and these are important concepts, yes, in coding.